Okay, everyone, welcome to another episode of Another Diamond in Jukebox. And today I'm picking up where I left off last time with Bryan Lopez, the California based photographer, videographer, journalist, behavioral therapist, DJ, and aspiring book writer. Hi again, Bryan.
Hey, thanks for having me. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I mean, honestly, I don't really like to wait too long in between interviews. Uh, yeah, because honestly feel like, especially if it's a follow up interview, I feel like it's best to, do it as soon as possible. Besides, I only have what, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, 6 questions left for you. So hopefully, if you don't elaborate on them too much, we can get this knocked out in one interview. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and by the way, thank you for doing this late at night. Well, not
Of course.
that late. It's 8:30, but still. Hmm. So the next question that I had for you on my list when we finished last time was, how old were you when you started DJing?
27, 27 years old.
Oh, wow. So yeah, that was only what, like a year ago.
Yeah, like last June, I saw a flyer online for what they call open turntables. That means that they have the setup already complete, the two turntables, the mixer, and all the equipment. All you got to do is just schedule a time, about a 30-minute chunk, and just bring your records. And it was really close to my place, like only 3 miles away. Funny enough, about 2 minutes away from my best friend. So I was like, well, let me just do this real quick and then go see my buddy. And I signed up, I brought my records, and I had never used like a pro setup before because they have like top of the line, best of the best turntables that last 30 years. I believe they were using Technics MK5s, which are very good. And I was like, this is completely new to me. So this buddy who I ended up making that night called LA Blue, I asked him for help and to teach me how to use it, the turntables, and he did, and he taught me how to use a mixer. And yeah, those guys just took me in, they were so nice, so helpful, and yeah, I had a great time. And instantly wanted to do it again.
Really?
And so I just kind of never stopped.
Nice. So you picked up a new skill.
Hmm.
What clubs do you mostly DJ in? Are they located mostly in LA or like in your area where you
In LA, so Hollywood or Boyle Heights. It's like the most places I've been spinning at.
live? I see. Yeah, I mean, honestly, for clubs, I feel like um, Hollywood and Los Angeles, places like, I don't know, downtown LA, North Hollywood, those would be like the best places for clubs. Van Nuys, like the Valley, might also, like, it also has some venues in it that are definitely good for live music. I have friends who have played at a couple of those. Obviously, I think that you and I talked about Maui Sugar Mill a little bit during our last interview. Maybe that's like uh, the club that I frequented the most in Thursana. And I've also been to the Last Call and the Liquid Zoo. So yeah, but I would honestly feel like, the Los Angeles area is definitely where most of the clubs would be at.
Yeah, like I've spun at this club in Boyle Heights called First Street Pool
Mhm.
and Billards. So that's where I really cut my teeth and really got good at spinning records. I've also had gigs at Harvard and Stone. I've had gigs at three clubs and other small local spots around town. But those are the ones that I most frequent at.
Nice. Yeah, I love Hardwood and Stone. I haven't been there in forever though. Oh my goodness. I think last time I was there may have been 2019. So
Oh wow!
yeah, it's been a while.
Last time I was there, I spun records for a minute. Yeah, good
Nice.
time.
So what exactly is a behavioral therapist and what do they do?
Good question. So behavioral therapist. My objectives. change with every client because every client has different needs. And so what I will do first is I'll read the IEP, which is a intervention educational plan. And so to give you some examples of clients I worked with in the past is I had a client one time who couldn't speak. Um, he knew two words. He knew mom and help. And so my goal with this client was to teach him how to speak and teach him how to sound out syllables, to create words, to know enough to teach him enough words to create a sentence, and on and on. And I've had other clients where it was more on the behavioral side where they were a little aggressive, and I was just trying to teach them healthy coping mechanisms so they can be a student, so they can make friends, and so they could be a contributing person in the community. So the my goals and my tasks change with every client, but to kind of keep it simple, I I try to minimize the negative behaviors and try and reinforce the positive ones so they can become more independent. So even hopefully they could even get a job or go to school or contribute in some way, at least to themselves, maintain their bed, maintain themselves, their hygiene, and help around the house, you know.
I see. So basically, your goal is to help out people with certain disabilities.
That's right.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And how long have you been doing that?
For about 4 years.
Hmm. I see. So you learned when you were about like 24. So it's like,
Yeah.
gosh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I was working a really crappy retail job and I was just getting underpaid. The manager sucks, the customer sucked. Uh, on paper, I was I was under part-time, but
Mhm.
this company that I worked for, this is really sleazy, and they put you for part-time, but they will give you 40 hours a week. Why? So they don't have to give you the full benefits. So it's so you accrue PTO slower. You don't get as much time off. You don't get as much benefits to medical, to vision, and it's just a really crappy situation. And again, being underpaid and overworked, you're there for 40 hours, but your hour lunch, it doesn't contribute to that 8 hours. So you're really, it goes from 40 to really like 45 plus commute. So you're there for like 50 hours a week, and it's just wasn't worth my time. And so I saw my current job at a listing online, and I thought it was interesting, and I gave it a shot, and I've been hooked ever since.
I see. Well, yeah, it's really great that you decided to make such a career move that was inspired by your then current like really crappy situation. Did they at least pay you for full-time hours?
Yes, but the hourly rate wasn't great. So, I still got paid for that work, but it just wasn't. I was really my patience was really wearing thin. Like later on.
Hmm. I see. Yeah, my first job right out of college was I was a stock associate at Club Monaco on Third Street Promenade. That was back in 2016, back when they actually had a store down there. And my manager was, well, I don't want to say what I actually want to call him here because honestly, it's been almost like a decade, and I'm still like
Say it.
like
I'm just kidding.
out. He was an asshole, dude. He was an asshole. But I mean, to be fair to him, I was kind of slow on the job. I mean, I had just gotten out of art school, and I was really spoiled by basically just having to work on my art projects. And I've been doing school part time for like the past 2 years before that. So I was just like really used to having like this really kind of like a mellow schedule and just like sitting behind a computer working on my art projects. I never had any kind of a retail job before, so all of that was kind of new to me. And to be fair to him, I was a little slow, but he was also kind of an asshole. So, I mean, honestly, that situation, like now that I look back at it, honestly doesn't sound as bad as it seemed to me back then. Definitely doesn't sound as bad as yours was. But I mean, yeah, it's like crappy jobs with, like, I feel like we've all been there. But, like, good for you for, like, really getting yourself out of that situation.
Yeah, it takes some courage and risk, and sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. It really has to be some kind of calculated risk to make a move like that, especially considering the hours for that job was so consistent, but again, low paying. So it's just, I don't know, it was kind of miserable, unfortunately.
Hmm. Well, I mean, hopefully you learned something from that job at least.
A lot of patience, made some really good buddies. That's about it. I learned how to do perform customer service. That's
Well,
about the extent of it.
I see. Well, honestly, I feel like there could be tons more other jobs, better jobs where you could have learned that. But still. Okay. Anyway, so on to the next question. So you had your first recorded interview, like what, even before you and I had our first interview last week. So who did you interview again?
This gentleman called Franco Ziza of Handsome Carnivore. His band back in 2018 or 19 was the first band to ever hire me as a photographer. And
Uh-huh.
it meant a lot to me, and it imbued a lot of confidence in me, thinking to myself, like, I can actually do this for a side gig and make some money, see some live music, discover new bands, new records. And I started in 2018, 17, it's around there, and I just never stopped,
Hmm.
with the exception of COVID for that small time.
Hmm. I see. So, how do you spell his last name?
It's pizza, but you replace the P with a Z, so it's Zizza. Franco Caesar.
Oh,
Hmm. I've actually interviewed a couple more people since. If you want me to elaborate.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Hold that thought though, just for a second. Yeah, I just typed him into Google, and yeah, I'm totally, huh. He actually, hmm, he has there is a profile piece on him on Canvas Rebel. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. So, yeah. Anyway, who else have you interviewed so far? Yeah, you can definitely tell me about.
The second interview I did was with a young man called Stephen Lear out of Denver, Colorado. He is a guitar player, singer, songwriter. He is very much inspired by SRV, Stevie Ray Vaughan out of Texas. Vocally, he's very inspired by the soul from the 70s, like Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, Otis Redding, Bill Withers. So he has the guitar chops and he's got the singing chops, and it's the performances that I saw in person because I was on tour when I saw him was just incredible, just floored me. He also did a cover of Etta James. Oh my God, it was I'd Rather Be Blind.
Oh,
Oh my man, incredible performance, and I just I was on the road for a month and a half, and that day where he opened was by far the best night of the entire month and a half run.
I
It was,
see.
it
What
was
venue?
that good. It wasn't even a venue; it was a DIY venue in some like industrial area of Denver. I couldn't tell you where it was, but it was just in the back of some building, outdoors, some kind of tiki looking stage, and yeah, it was just the stage didn't really matter. It's just the players, the songs, and the band sounded amazing. Johnny went up, sounded amazing. They were mosh pitting. It just had the best night, the best vibe, best crowd out of the entire tour.
Oh, that sounds really cool. So tell me more about the process of like when you did your first interview. I mean, we talked about that during our last interview. You also told me about that when you and I met. You said that like it sounded like you had a very professional approach to it. You said that you brought like a lot of equipment, and you shot the interview on the spot. And also, how far did you have to travel, like for that very first interview that you told me about?
So my equipment consists of a camera, a Nikon camera that is it's a Nikon D5300, very light camera. I used a wide angle lens. We were in his garage with his amps, his motorcycle, his guitars. I had a really light Amazon tripod. I had a Rode mic NTG, which is a nicer mic for acoustic guitar, voices, interviews. I also had the mic that I'm speaking to you with now, which is a Blue Yeti, one of the nicer ones, as a secondary audio source. So I had the NTG mic on my camera. I had the Blue Yeti hooked to to my phone as a second source, plus the video from the camera. So I had that going on. It was really light, really simple setup. I also brought some LED lights, powered by ports, like with a stand and all that. But I didn't need it. Our lighting was good enough you know to be, it was fine. And so it was a really simple setup and similar structure to the other interviews I've conducted, which is introducing myself, my project, my subject, introductory questions. How did you get into music? How did you get inspired to pursue guitar? What kind of blues inspired you? What are the shows that you played? Tell me, and then I ask specific questions about the records. And um, about halfway through my interviews, I kind of pivot to blues, and I ask kind of deeper, open-ended kind of questions. Like, for example, an interview I did a couple days ago, which I'll tell you about. I asked this UK artist, like I asked him, what is the importance of maintaining the American blues tradition in the UK? So questions like that where there's not necessarily a wrong answer, but it's a thought-provoking question as opposed to like more conversational. And so I was asking him, what do the Delta players mean to you? Like Robert Johnson, Lead Belly, and what did Jim Morrison mean to you? My first subject, Franco Caesar, is a published poet. He one of his heroes is Jim Morrison, from the Doors,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so there is a lot of connections, a lot of parallels, and he gave some great answers. This guy, Franco Caesar, he's very spiritual. He's well read. He's just he's very introspective. So man, his answers were so elaborate, and just he went on for a while, and I just let him talk. I just let it be. And so he gave some excellent answers. That interview was over an hour and a half. It's my longest yet. I've been keeping them about an hour max, maybe hour five. But his is like easily over an hour and a half because his answers were so long and evocative and just so interesting. Like I didn't want to stop him. You know what I mean? And so it came towards the end of the interview, and I asked him like, what song are you gonna play? And he said, I'm gonna play a song called Car Hissed by My Window by The Doors off their last record, LA Woman, which is the song that got me into blues. So I kind of saw that as a a good omen to keep doing what I'm doing. And his performance was incredible. He did two takes, and the thing about that song that got me into blues is because at the last part section of the song, Jim Morrison mimics what Ray would have done on Slide, but with his voice. And as a kid, as a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, I was like, what is that the Slide or is that his voice? What's going on? And it made me think deeper about this specific song and why I like it. And it made me realize like I really like this style of music. It's got an edge to it that other kinds of music just didn't do anything. It just didn't have that. And back to Franco, his performance was incredible. It was a great hang, and it was just a pleasure. And that was interview number one. Since I've done two more, the second one I did was Stefan Lear, which I told you about. Really good interview. The third most recent one is a gentleman called Casper Barry Rapkin out of the UK, and he is a more traditionalist bluesman. He's pre-war inspired, so like 1920s to 1940s. Charlie Patton, Lead Belly, players like that. He was his answers were so good, and I got a really interesting insight to the blues scene in the UK. I've never been, and I do plan to go, but I've never spent any time there. So his insight was just all new to me. Um, he answered some really great questions. He performed a song for me by Charlie Patton, I believe, which is a very influential bluesman. And yeah, he told me many interesting things. I asked him a question like that's like my introductory question to like this deeper conversation is like, what does a blues mean to you? And he gave me a great answer. And then I asked him the question I referred to earlier, which is what is the importance of keeping the American blues tradition alive in the UK? And he just went on and just gave me some great answers. I asked him a question that I referenced from an article I read, which is kind of it's a very difficult question. I kind of feel bad for asking him this, but I asked him, "What is American music without black music?" And he he gave me a really interesting anecdote. He told me asking me that question is like asking me to paint with a color that doesn't exist. And I was like, that sounds about right. Because the blues, it inspired all forms of American music, jazz, country, although country and jazz kind of inspire each other, rock, funk, EDM, hip hop, soul. And so he told me he he can't fathom it, and it makes sense. But overall, the conversations have been very good, very interesting, and the performances have been great. Um, and yeah, it's been a pleasure. I've got like five more people to interview very soon, although three of them are written. Two of those people are out of the UK. I've got a musicologist from Poland that I'm gonna do a written interview for because English isn't her native language. I've got this writer that I met on Reddit who I'm going to interview via Zoom. And I have another acquaintance I made from Texas who I'll be doing a Zoom interview with.
Nice. Oh my gosh, sounds like you already have so much material to work with for your book. That's amazing. And how many interviews did you say you intend to have in it?
I don't have a set number right now. It's gonna be more of a feel thing if I feel satisfied with the amount of work and the amount of subjects that I've covered because since blues has so many styles, like it's got Chicago, Texas, Delta, Hill Country, desert, funky, jazzy, blues rock, UK blues rock. Like there's so many styles. And so I need to have conversations that cover all of those grounds. And so I already compiled a list of people for the Hill Country Blues, which is more Bentonia, more Tullahoma area. And then I'm talking to these people who are from the UK. So I'm going to be asking them questions about the UK bluesmen like Zeppelin, uh, Jeff Beck, all these people. And so I need to accumulate enough conversations to kind of satiate the conversation for that particular subgenre of blues. And so I need to do that for every subgenre, excuse me. And so again, like I don't have a limit right now. I think maybe the real limit to me would be the page number. Like if it gets to like the 400s or something like that, like I might have to cut it. But that's really my only limitation right now. In terms of conversation, it's like as many as people would want to have with me, and then kind of going from there.
I see. Well, hearing you talk about like you asking your subjects questions about the blues culture, it makes me think how you mentioned that you like to interview me for your book, and I immediately had thought like, what would I have to say about the blues culture in Los Angeles? Yeah, because honestly, it's like I mentioned before, I have never been a blues fan. Country, yes, I like some country music. Rock and roll, I definitely know more about the origins of it, and I feel like I can definitely talk about that more. But when it comes to rock music, I must say that I am definitely much more educated about the biographies of certain artists, some things about the music scene in LA, and I guess so far that's about it. Those are like the main two things that I can think of. Even when I do my interviews, it's mostly not me sharing the information so much, even though sometimes I do have things to add to what my subjects are saying. it's mostly me asking them questions about their background. I mean, that's mainly what my podcast has been about for the past 2 years. Like, I mainly interview musicians, mainly rock and roll musicians. I've had some pop musicians on my podcast as well. But yeah, I know not pretty much nothing about the blues scene, and like it makes me think like I could do some research, like read about it online and see if maybe that like conjures up some things. But I mean, nevertheless, I'm not like discouraging you not to like to interview me. I would still love to be a part of it, but like I'm just saying, I guess now I have some more homework to do.
Yeah, I feel like with the blues genre, there's so many subgenres under that that I think there's something for everybody. Like I think the most popular avenue people get into the blues is probably like a Led Zeppelin
Mm-hmm.
or Hendrix or SRV,
Yeah,
BB King, Albert King, Freddie King. So I think there's a lot of ways into it. And then, even if you like jazz or funk or even there's even hip hop infused with blues now. Like it's just all these subgenres and there's so many avenues to get into the genre. And like I said, I think you look hard enough, I think you'll find something that you like and it'll lead you either backwards or forwards,
mm-hmm.
in the timeline. And you know, you just got to keep digging.
Well, like I said, I guess I better do some research.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's see what my next question is. Okay, and so I'm so sorry. How long did you say you've been working on this book for again?
I think maybe like a
Oh,
week and change.
wow. Oh my gosh, it's only been a week. You already have
Mhm.
so much material. You already interviewed so many people. Damn,
Yeah, just
amazing.
three so far, but I've got five. I've got a person tomorrow's Thursday, right? Okay, so I have a person tomorrow. I have potentially two Friday, and then three more that are going to be written. So it really depends on how soon I do research on this subject, write out 20, 25 questions, send it out, and then do that two more times for two other people. So it's about I have a lot. I have like 60 to 70 questions to write right now for three different people across the world,
Well,
Poland and two in UK.
definitely sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, when I read questions for my podcast episodes, I usually always stick with, I'd say, anywhere between like 10 to 15 questions. Yeah, because I feel like I said, when I do my recorded interviews, I always try to keep it at an hour because I feel like that's the most reasonable length for my viewers. The longest list of questions that I had was for Ronnie Lee. So if you want to look up who that is, she wrote one of the songs for the Runaways. She also played in one of the bands that Kim Fowley put together before he put together the Runaways. She was the Venus and the Razorblades. So yeah, when I had 17 questions for her, and I believe that we squeezed that into 4 interviews, mostly because she had so much to say. So yeah, like when it comes to my interview lengths, an hour is the limit for me. 10 questions, maybe like 10 to 15 questions, depending on like how much you want to ask, feels like a good amount to me. But like, dude, you said you're writing like 20 questions for each of your subjects.
Yeah, I just want to. I'd rather have more questions than not enough. And um, like I said, all the way I've structured these interviews is the intro, introducing myself, the project, and then the subject, and asking what was their inspiration, and then kind of leaded them towards the halfway point, which is when I switched the conversation specifically about the blues, and like those questions get deeper and more thought provoking, and I don't know. I just feel like that's my favorite part of the interview. It's just the answers and the questions. I think have been really really well done, and the reception from the people I've been interviewing has been very good. And people like it so much so that this UK person I interviewed, Casper Barry Rapkins, and he recommended me to a couple of the artists in his scene, and I've scheduled interviews with them because they liked it that much. and so it's working. And yeah, I'd rather have more than not enough. And I just I just try to think deeply about these questions, or maybe I've heard an interview of theirs. Maybe briefly mentioned this one small detail that I want to ask in more detail about, and I kind of go there, or try to look at things from different angles and ask these bigger questions, sometimes difficult ones.
I see. Well, it definitely sounds like your book is going to be a big success when it comes out. And speaking of success, do you have any advice for aspiring journalists and or podcasters such as myself?
Um, just have an open mind. Um, Listen to as much music as you can. Support local artists, local bands, local artists, like, whether it be painters, writers, directors, photographers, any kind of art. Um, be curious. You know, if, if you hear something mid-interview that you didn't plan to ask, and you just find that detail interesting, just tell them. I would, like I do, like I would ask them, can you expand on that? Can you tell me more? The interview with Casper, he mentioned something very briefly that I didn't know about. He mentioned to me that he recorded a song or two at Albee Road Studios, the legendary Albee Roads. And so I was like, hold on, like, can you tell me more about that? And he told me a really great story where he recorded a song called JoJo about this parrot that have been through multiple families. The first family, the father committed murder, and when the bird went to the second family, that the owner for the bird, the second owner, he robbed the bank. And so, like, he went to Albee Road Studio to record the song about this bird with his crazy life, and he used the same mic that John Lennon used, that Jay-Z, Elton John, and all these other legends that was it was incredible. And he went home, he listened to the take, he didn't like it. He thought it was a bad take, and so he just used a $15 Amazon mic and used that take instead. So that was a really interesting snippet that I would have never gotten if I hadn't just kind of gently cut him off and asked him to expand. So I think that's really important too, to actively listen and to be on the lookout for any interesting nuggets, and to expand, and again, be curious and ask the right questions, and while being respectful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, oh my goodness, that is such a crazy story. I mean, everything about it. I mean, first of all, there is the fact that the spirit has such a colorful history. Gosh, I feel bad for the bird. I hope he was okay. I hope he wasn't like, abused or anything. Because like honestly, every single time I hear stuff like that, like especially when it comes to pets or like animals in general, really, like it just breaks my heart. Because honestly, it's so sad. Like, I mean, I'm a huge animal person. Mainly, I'm a cat person. I like cats more than I like dogs. But it's like I've had two rabbits, throughout my entire 20s. I'm on my second one right now, though he lives with my mother. So yeah, it's like I seriously hope that that parent is okay. And then like to have you tell that the artist used the same mic that John Lennon used, that Jay Z used. I mean, dude, that's awesome. I mean, definitely, yeah, like that. You definitely hit a jackpot of information right there. And I mean, yeah, and I always ask my subjects to do that if they mention something that is not in my, pre-made list of questions. I always ask them to elaborate on that, and like that's why some of the interviews end up being like over an hour long or something. Well, if it ends up being over an hour long, I usually like to like cut it into chunks, kind of like I did with this one, because honestly, I only have like 13 questions for you in total. I honestly had no idea that this would, would need to be broken up into two parts. But I mean, you had a lot of really great information to give me. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely really important to, always not just like, go off your list of questions like boom, 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 uh, but actually make it into a real conversation.
And I think that's why my interviews have been, even though I have a lot of questions, they still tend to be about an hour or so, because I'll ask them a question, they'll explain or elaborate, and then I'll be like, I'll just say great answer or thank you or something along those lines, and then pretty quickly move on to the next question. So I could definitely be better in that respect and to kind of bounce back and with something on my end and make it more conversational. I could definitely be working. I could be better about that for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm still trying to teach myself not to say next question every single time my subject is done with their answer. I've gotten better at that since during my last 5 interviews or so, because I've been getting more interviews lately as well. So I feel like I've gotten better at that part, but still I catch myself saying that like every once in a while. Anyway, so my last question for you is, are you working on any other projects right now besides your book?
Um, I'm just photography, just videography, the book. I think that would be it. The book is kind of taking my main focus. I just find it so interesting that all these people around the world are willing to speak to me over the love of this same style. And the people who have replied back to me have been extremely excited, honored to speak with me and to have me document these conversations I'm having. And so this is my main project right now, and it's going to be my main project for at least a year. I'm giving myself 12 months, and so we'll see where we're at in 12 months. But I hope to be done by then. I'd rather not work on it too long because I don't want to lose, I don't know, the flame per se. But to answer your question, this is my main project, and it's going to be a ongoing project for a while as I have people who want to speak to me who won't be here until November when they come to LA for tour. So I'm going to be doing interviews well then, and hopefully get something interesting out of it.
It definitely sounds like an awesome project, and you definitely have so much great material already. And like I said, I would be honored to be in it. I better do some research on blues. And it also looks like you definitely have your hands full with all of this, all this other stuff you're working on. So, well, Bryan, thank you so much for being on my show. I will post this as soon as possible. And everyone, please like, comment, subscribe, support me on Patreon. Links in the description for this video. And Bryan, I'll see you next time. I will get in touch with you about you interviewing.
Absolutely. And then we should do another one when I launch the book because I'm gonna have another 30 interviews under my belt. So there's gonna be something interesting to say for sure. So I would love to do this again after the book launches.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. And hopefully I'll bump into you at some clubs in LA again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bryan. Have a good night.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for having me.